welcome to this Omaha Symphony Orchestra pre-concert live stream. Joining me tonight are our guest conductor for this weekend's program, Kirov Stilian, Christi Zuniga, the orchestra's principal piano, who will be featured on one of the works, and principal trombonist, Pat Pfister. So welcome to my guests. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be here.
So this concert opens with compositions by three American composers, Eric Ewazen, Walter Piston, and William Grant Still, and then closes with Haydn's Symphony Number 104 called London, which he wrote in 1795. So it's a little bit of 20th and, depending on when Ewazen wrote his piece, 21st century and 18th century. We'll get to that in a minute. So, but it's an interesting program. Ewazen is the only one still living. Piston and Still, when I was doing some research on them, were almost exact contemporaries. They were born and died within just a couple of years of each other. So their careers were just absolutely parallel. So, Maestro Stilian, I'd like to start with you. When you're preparing a program, when you're putting a program together, what's your approach to balancing out the repertoires, and what do these composers bring to that?
Mm-hmm. When we're planning a program, obviously it's like preparing a meal for dinner, and there are many different factors that we take into consideration. Obviously, the general direction of the program, the general meaning of the program. There are, of course, many technicalities as well that play important role, like, for example, when the orchestra has last performed certain pieces, what is the instrumentation, and of course, there is the correlation between the pieces. And in this case, I think we came up with a very exciting program from many different perspectives, not only because of the fact that we have three American composers and another composer who is not American and yet very distinguished. But also I'm happy about the fact that we're bringing into the program a focus, stronger focus on equity, diversity, and inclusion as well with William Grant Still. This has been, I have been on a discovery mission in a way, since the pandemic started, and had the chance to listen to a lot of music that I personally didn't know, and I had the chance to experience and discovered many composers who haven't been performed, who really deserve to be performed more, and William Grant Still was one of them. So I was very happy to that we are going to perform his beautiful piece as well. And as it comes to the correlation between the different pieces in the program, I think yes, they seem very different, but in the same time, you will see a lot of relationship in terms of going back to classical forms, like in the case of Ewazen, his Symphony for Brass, which is a little bit different, but yet if you look on the first movement, you will discover that it's pretty much Haydn-esque classical structure. When you listen to Piston, you also have this sort of neoclassicism within the work, and quite brilliant technically in many different ways, and also very exciting. And I will let Christi talk about it a little bit more. You have Still, who has these beautiful harmonies that, in a way, romantic almost writing, with, of course, a very prominent American flavor, as well as, of course, the symphony, the big symphony on the program. Although I have to say, in terms of brilliance and difficulty, and I think the Ewazen and the Haydn are up there quite together. I think it's a brilliant program from many different perspectives, and by brilliant I mean very virtuosic. So I think it keeps everybody on their toes, but I think the audience will absolutely love it. And I also think it's a program where everybody can find something they love because of its diversity as well.
You talked, of course, about William Grant Still, and I think over the last year and a half, maybe 3 or 4 years, with events happening in the country, there's been a focus on rediscovering composers that were lost as we define DEI in our society. We're rediscovering them, and William Grant Still has been called the Dean of African American Composers. Certainly, the most successful of African American composers, and certainly the most successful of them. But I really think he should be one of the deans of American composers. You don't have to qualify it. But the piece tonight, Mother and Child, what do you find compelling in that work?
I find really compelling the purity of it. It's pure, it's beautiful, it comes from the heart, and yet it's very, very well written. So obviously, this was actually this particular piece is the third movement of his suite for piano and violin. So this was orchestrated beautifully, but just the music itself, it floats so naturally and so organically that I think if you haven't experienced this piece before, you will be absolutely mesmerized by the sounds Still creates with his work.
I can't wait to hear it. I've as KVNO has played more of his work, I've learned a little bit more about him and heard some of his pieces, and I'm thrilled with them. And so this is a new one to me. I haven't heard this one. I'm looking forward to it very much. The concert opens with the Iwaisen piece, and so Pat, he's still alive. Does that change how you prepare for the weekend, how you approach the music?
So in this specific instance, not necessarily, although I have done a lot more listening to Iwaisen this week than I have probably ever, but certainly since I was in school. I've played a lot of his brass quintet music over the years, and I've never actually played any of his trombone-specific solos. He has a plethora of tenor trombone and bass trombone solos, both with piano and then with larger accompaniment or trombone choir. And so the smallest piece I've played is his Pastoral, which I did with tuba and tenor trombone and piano. But with his larger brass works, like quintet and this piece, they tend to have a lot of similarities. I think of Iwaisen is having a rhythmic intensity very often. Usually there's an eighth note pulse, and then for some reason also a 16th note pulse within the bar, which is especially in the third movement in this piece, but in like I said, lots of his quintets. And so there's just a familiar style that I think most brass players all have with him. But certainly for living composers, if you were premiering a solo or just playing a solo and you had any type of question, with the internet these days, I know of many people who just, find the composer's email address and reach out to them and ask them, what does this mean? Or can I do this in this section? And, you get a feedback sometimes within minutes. So it's certainly quite a privilege to live these days and being able to contact composers usually pretty easily.
Christi, as principal piano, you get to play a lot with the orchestra, but this one you're actually featured on the Walter Piston Concertino for piano and orchestra. So does this change how you prepare for the concert, being the featured artist instead of part of the orchestral mix?
Yes, it does. I'm so used to being in the back and just being a part, usually playing with percussion or playing along with strings. It's a lot of different things in orchestral music. For the piano, every now and then I'll have a tiny solo but it's always within the orchestra. So as a soloist for a concerto, it's a huge change, and it's a great honor, of course. I'm really excited about it, but I'll be at the front of the stage, which is really far out there. I'm not used to being out there.
Yeah.
And so that's a little different. And then I get to wear something other than black, so that's kind of exciting.
Oh, wow.
I could even wear open-toed shoes if I wanted to, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of different things about it, and of course, being a concerto, it's a lot more involved, a lot more difficult music. So I've been working on it for much longer. I got the music way earlier than we sometimes get our music. So yeah, it's good.
No, I have another question to ask, but since you brought that up, so last year, I think before all the shutdown, maybe the year before, my wife and I were privileged to take a tour of the Holland Performing Arts Center, and as part of that, we stopped in the library, and the librarians talked to us, and I played in high school band. All right, I held a baritone in band, and sometimes blew through it. And then I stopped inflicting myself on band directors way early after high school. But, in high school and even in college, because I've sung with the college choir, and I've actually sung with the Omaha Symphony in the past. I sang
Amazing.
I sang the Requiem, the Brahms Requiem, Ein Deutsches Requiem, and I sang Beethoven's Ninth with the symphony, and it was such a thrill. But we prepare for months for that concert, and I was surprised because the librarian said, "Oh yeah, we try to get on the music a couple weeks before the concert," and I'm like, "Holy smokes, this is amazing!" It was always stunning to me, but of course it's your job. I mean, y'all are good at it, so
we have to keep our chops moving and keep our technique up, and that's what we're here for.
So the question that I had was just to go down the People magazine route. What are you wearing?
Oh, well, yeah, I wanted to save money and just use something from my closet because it's been many years since I played, and I thought nobody will remember those old dresses, but I couldn't fit in them, so I thought, maybe I could wear a mechanic's jumpsuit because they usually work on pistons. I changed my mind, and I decided to buy a nice navy blue dress. And so that's what I'm wearing. Silver shoes.
Beautiful.
Nice. Very nice. Killian, if I may.
Stilian, yeah.
Stilian. Sorry. It's Stilian Kirov. Sorry.
That's right. That's okay. I like Killian's too. Yeah, that's a nice beer.
Stilian, if I may. I mentioned that William Grant Still and Walter Piston were pretty much contemporaries. I don't know that they ever met. I don't know that they ever crossed paths. Do you find parallels in their music at all?
It's a very good question. I would say not really. Also, probably because of the fact that Piston studied in France with Nadia Boulanger, obviously, So what I find in his music is, clarity, technical perfection. I think it's hearted music. There's some critics often that call him that he's very technical. I think the music comes really from the heart, but also particularly in this piece, and we talked about it the other day with Christi, is that I find a little bit of impressionism, especially in the second movement. The second section, the slow section of the piece. There are three sections that basically represent three movements, but because it's concertino, it's they're tied together. So I find a little bit of this influence in his music, particularly. In the case of Ewazen, obviously he was surrounded by a lot of atonal music. But I still find that he, in a way, absorbed all the different styles that were around him and created his own style, which, in my opinion, is very, very approachable. It's exciting. And it's approachable in a good way. There is great artistic integrity behind it. But I find them, although although they lived at about the same time, I found them to have quite different styles.
So more an influence rather than of the time of the teacher, really, the influences from
Possible.
the teacher.
Yes, and also everything that surrounds them. I mean, in the case of Piston, if you lived in Paris, there is no way that you're not influenced by the music, by the whole atmosphere that surrounds you. I used to live in Paris for 3 years when I was younger, and you're just absorbed by this culture and by everything around. So I still feel that he has his own core personality and his technique and his internal style, but I think the way he experienced his time in Paris obviously influenced his music as well in a great way.
And of course, the other name in that whole era that looms over all of them is Aaron Copland.
Yes,
who also studied in Paris.
Right.
So is there more of a parallel between those two than with William Grant Still, who took his own route?
Probably, with Copland, you can say this. Although, if you think about Copland, he went through many different transformations. I mean, the clarinet concerto obviously is very different than Appalachian Spring. So you hear that. And in the case of Piston, I think he was a little bit more consistent with his own style. I recently done the Sixth Symphony, and I thought it was very. I mean, you really know that it's Piston, so it's very distinctive. It's very distinctive style. Well, another fact to consider, obviously, is that Piston was the teacher of Elliott Carter. And that's another composer who, in my opinion, left huge mark in American music after Piston. Yeah. So I think Piston, in a way, when I think about Piston, I think that he's but one of the founding fathers of American music, as the way we know it today, in many different ways. So.
Wow. So where did American music go from Piston and from Copland and from Still? What you said that Piston is one of the founders. What influence? Who have they influenced? Who would we know that they influenced?
Right. I think obviously Elliott Carter is the clear example, as we mentioned. But I think many composers followed this trend, and so if you go to European music and you think of the Second Viennese School, that in a way changed everything. I think obviously this had some influence on American music later on. However, I feel that American music evolved a little bit differently, which is normal because the culture and the way of thinking and the concept of life and the way we see things are different here than they're obviously in Vienna. So I think there is the seed of looking for atonality or kind of a wrong note tonality. Maybe some people will say, however, we always tend to gravitate towards a little bit of more tonal aspect, more tonal core, which I think is beautiful. And yet you can still hear the dissonances, you can still hear the harmonies contradicting with each other. In the case of Elliott Carter, obviously it went quite towards the atonal way, which I find very interesting. I have done his Symphonia Sum Fluxae Spe, which is absolutely atonal with a lot of cluster, very huge complexity within the texture. And yet you hear Carter's very last piece, which was it is a string piece, and it's absolutely pure, it's absolutely beautiful, it's simple and genius. Yeah, and I actually had the privilege to premiere on the East Coast his second to last piece, and it was absolutely mesmerizing. It's like you're conducting Mozart, except is complicated in another way, and yet so clear and exciting in the same time. So I think it's hard to summarize where the music went. I think it went many different ways, and I think it's still going many different ways. There is a lot of experimental music. If you think of John Cage, there is the film music that also plays big role in American music, I believe. And actually, Eric Ewazen, when I was listening to it, and it opens with this beautiful brass in the beginning, I was thinking that's the final frontier, So yes, there are many different streams that evolved since Piston, and I think I want to say that many of them are really taken off ever since, and are exciting for the audience to experience. I personally am very, very open to many different styles. If you think the music of Piston, of Carter, of Charles Ives, another great American composer. So a lot of beautiful music out there still to be discovered too. So.
Christi and Pat, I'm not ignoring you, but I have one more question for Stilian that involves William Grant Still. A few minutes ago, when you were talking about him, and I'm going to get this wrong because I didn't write it down, but I want to pursue it a little bit. You said he has more of a romantic style of American music, which is fascinating because most of romantic music we think of Germany and maybe a little bit of France and things like that. And you said he brought that style to the American sounds that he heard. Did I get that right?
Yes. I think it was just the way he evolved as a musician as well. I don't think he necessarily took it from certain European composers, but I think his own style evolved to be what it is. Yes, I think he has more romantic, per se, neo-romantic way of looking at things, mainly from harmonic perspective, and yet you still have this American flavor to the music, this purely American harmonies. And this is also something that you will hear in the Owazen as well, which I think is very, very prominent. I believe that, when you listen to something like this, and even when you listen to Copland's Appalachian Spring, which, by the way, I'm doing next week, there is something about, I don't want to call it nostalgic. I was trying to describe it in my mind, but when you hear this and you feel excited and inspired and happy to be part of our country. And I don't say this in a patriotic way. I just saw the reminiscence of the sound is something that you feel very closely. I have been living here for a very long time, so I very much feel American now.
Christi and Pat, and Stilian, if you'd like to, we were talking before we started here on the live stream about the logistics of the symphony right now. For those people who might be watching and who haven't been to a concert yet, I have to tell you, my wife and I have Masterworks tickets, and it's just part of our life to go to the symphony. And so as soon as it opened up, we cautiously stepped outdoors. We don't go out to eat. We don't attend many events, if any at all, but we do go to the symphony, and everything is, nobody touches your tickets. You're shown to your seat. It's at least every other, if not every third row that you're in. You're widely spaced from the people who might be in the same row as you. And the ultimate is the musicians on stage. You've never seen the orchestra look like this. They are spread out all over the stage, and the brass is up in the choir section above. So the question is for each of you, and I'll start with Christi. You talked about kind of usually being in the back, but how does that change the performance and how you hear the other musicians?
It's actually surprising that it has worked pretty well, because I do have to say I really, really miss Pat and all the other brass. I can't even see them because I'm so far back. I can't see up in the balcony. I can't see any of them. But also, I don't hear them as well as when they're right next to me or, across the stage. So that's I don't know. It is a little bit difficult, and we maybe have had a little trouble with that, but it's gone remarkably well, and you can still hear them really well. It's just not quite as present as I'm used to, but hopefully out in the audience it sounds kind of normal. How's it for you, Pat?
Kind of. Sounds kind of normal.
Yeah.
sounds pretty darn good from where I am. But yeah, I didn't have so Pat. It brings up a different, slightly different focus of the question because you're up there now, and you probably don't hear much of any of the other musicians. They're down below you, and the sound is going out rather than up.
So yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, the sound, the strings are super reduced. So when we're not playing, actually just sitting there with even 6 first violins and 3 basses, the sound is actually extremely full. The biggest difficulty is I really can't hear very well past the second trombonist on my left and the principal trumpet on my right. So hearing bass trombone or tuba and balancing chords is complete guesswork. But I think the biggest thing to our advantage that brass players naturally do is play directly with the stick. We're very much on the front side of the beat, and string players are generally on the back side of the beat. So we've just had to take that to another level of just a slight anticipation. And for the most part, it's only needed minimal encouragement to do even more at times. So yeah, I mean, I think the feedback from the hall is that our violinist Rico Amador was the ears in the hall last week, and he said the sound is beautiful, that it's much broader than usual. It's not coming from a specific spot necessarily, when we're all together. And then from the violinist perspective, what I've heard from them is that, as Christi said, the sound's going over them, so they can hear us, but it's not maybe as strident as it can be at times. But yeah, so we're just kind of doing what we can and trusting that if the conductor says it's okay, that we are on the right page.
It's okay, Pat.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you chimed in on that because Stilian, you're next. How does it change? Does it change the way you conduct?
It does. Absolutely, it does, and it's very much within what Pat said about having to be, in a way, clear. You always want to be clear, but my philosophy was always to encourage the orchestra to listen to each other, and for me to actually help with certain direction and when it's needed, but not overstep, not over conduct, and just lead within listening to each other. This changes things a little bit because yes, you have to give basically every beat. I think especially in piece as a ways, and of course it has to happen anyway. But let's say if we think about Haydn, this is pretty much a piece that an orchestra after a rehearsal can be able to play it technically without a conductor. And I think conductors should be aware of this so that they allow more freedom of the musicians, because I think at the end, this will give a better performance if the musicians have more freedom to listen to each other, to make music with each other, and whenever needed, of course, to look up for the conductor's gesture. In this case, obviously, often it happens that you're trying to keep things together simply because of the acoustic difficulty. And I don't know, last time I was in the hall, it sounded beautiful. But this was before the pandemic, and now obviously we will be situated a little bit differently. I think we will adjust, and it probably will take a little bit of time to start learning what we hear and how to react to certain things that we hear. But that makes our job even more exciting. It's never a dull moment, as they say. And what we can do is just enjoy the music, bring the best out of it, and have fun along the way.
And it helps that the Holland is such a beautiful acoustic box. I mean, an almost perfect acoustic box. That's got to help a lot. It makes up for the more spread out. And I agree, by the way, that the symphony really does sound full, coming from one end to the other of the stage, and I think it sounds magnificent. I have another question for Christi, but I want to explore the Haydn just a little bit. The Haydn 104th Symphony, his last symphony. He was aging, but he loved going to London. It's called the London. It was written specifically for London, to perform in London. I was reading something. He remarked to a friend after one of his concerts that he made 4,000 golds, Gulds, which I have no idea what that denomination is. But in whatever denomination, 4,000 sounds like a lot. And he said only in London. He was just delighted. Right. Stilian, tell us a little bit about that piece, his very last symphony.
Yeah, and this is also the last of what we call the London symphonies. Yeah. That he wrote. It's a piece that in any way summarizes the genius of Haydn in so many different ways. It's a piece that is extremely mature, brilliantly written, original, I find in many ways, because usually when you hear a classical symphony, you have the phrasings going pretty much either by 4 measures or by 2 measures. In Haydn, he creates such a flexibility within the texture and originality that sometimes you have 5 measures, sometimes you have 6 measures, sometimes you have 3 measures of phrasing. And it sounds so organic in the same time that it's absolutely fascinating. In terms of the symphony itself, the structure of the symphony is very, very classical. It has a slow introduction, allegro in the first movement, a slow second movement, and minuetto for the third movement, and an exciting fourth movement. And yet within this, you can hear a lot of folk elements that Haydn took and masterfully elevated to the concert hall style back in the time, or concert hall level back in the time. But because of the way he wrote it, this folkloristic excitement is very present in the music, and this is obviously, I think it's present in every single movement, the first movement, the third movement, and the fourth movement. But in the fourth movement, it's very obvious how he goes back to folklore, and he takes these themes and just brilliantly builds the finale of the symphony. It's a piece that it's one of my very, very favorites. I'm very happy that we have the chance to perform it, and I'm looking forward to it.
So the use of the folk music, which many composers do, but the use of the folk music and the innovative way he was writing towards late in his life, even though the symphony is separated from the other composers on the program by 200 years, it sounds like it fits because of the way that he wrote that piece.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. And well, another thing to also consider is a little smile back to Baroque as well, especially in the second movement. You have this little section when it's clearly going back. It's kind of a neo-Baroque-ish, although it's not very far from the Baroque in terms of time frame. But he does that as well. So yes, I absolutely agree.
Christi, you celebrated 20 years with the symphony in 2020. What have been the highlights over those 20 years?
We've done some great Stravinsky pieces. That we've done Petrushka, Shostakovich, Fifth Symphony was a big highlight. Appalachian Spring, we've done that several times, so that's the meaty stuff for piano.
Yes, that's hard piano
It's very
part there
difficult.
too.
It's very difficult, but it's great music. Yeah, so there've been a lot of fun things for me to do over the years, and a few concertos sprinkled in there here and there.
Mhm. The last time I saw Appalachian Spring, the symphony brought the choreography to the stage and played behind the choreography, and I almost came out of my seat. I literally had tears running down my cheeks when it was done. It was spectacular. I wish I could see it again because I took in a tenth of the entire experience. It was magnificent, and I love the symphony for being innovative that way.
We should do it again.
Yeah.
We should. So with the new arrangement of the orchestra, Pat, I'm going to get back to this again. The brass always sits behind everybody, right in front of the percussion. So you may be happy to get away from the percussion a little bit. all that drumming in your ears. Although the piano is a percussion instrument too, a very beautiful one. But nobody ever gets to see you because all the cellos and the violas are all in front of you and nobody can see you. And even some of the woodwinds are in front of you. What's it like sitting up there and seeing out the entire vista in front of you?
You're like,
I mean, I know it's not intimidating, but it's got to be a little bit different.
Yeah. I was going to say, I almost actually feel maybe more invisible because we're wearing black and we've got these the dark blue backgrounds behind us. But no, they put some nice spotlights on us up there, so we definitely feel like we're playing a rock show or something. Yeah, the percussion can be loud, especially. I think I'm usually the closest person to the timpani, so he's actually not playing like crazy loud, but being 2 feet away from it, it sometimes gets. There's just nothing you can do. So, other than bring earplugs, and on the day of the performance, you rip out the earplugs when you need to play something important. And it's. I guess going back to the earlier point of being in the loft, I've sat where the second trombonist usually sits, and then in the Disney program we did about a week ago, we were shoved over to the stage right side where the French horns usually sit. Mm-hmm. And they took out one of the risers there, or one of the choir chairs and benches, and so you're all on concrete, and you're like I was closest to the corner. And so that feeling actually felt like incredible, because you have this hard surface below you and you have this rounded surface behind you. And it just felt like my sound was easily getting out there. And then even sitting, again, 6 feet to my left, it took me 2 rehearsals to get used to being in a different location. So, it's a challenge, but, it's nice. It's a good view. And even though I can't, like Christi said, I can't really see my colleagues on the floor all that well, but yeah.
Maybe you like that.
No, we're not going to go down that rabbit.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy it while you can, because we want you back on the floor.
Well, I want the whole symphony back on the floor, and I want the full experience, and I can't wait. I can't wait to hear Ankush as well. I'm going to wrap things up, but I'm going to throw a curveball question at you, and Stilian, I'll ask you to answer first. Pick a highlight of this concert. What's the highlight of this concert? I think,
my answer obviously is very diplomatic, but every single piece is a highlight. Sometimes I'm being asked, what is your favorite piece? What is yeah, who is your favorite composer? And I said, everything I conduct tonight. and I think this has to be the approach, because in order to bring the best out of each piece, you have to think that that's the best thing, that's the best piece you've ever played or conducted. So I like to think that way. I know it's not very particular, but I really believe in that. So
it's fine. Christi?
I'm actually really excited to hear the still, because I played the suite for violin and piano just 2 weeks ago, and the middle movement, like Stilian said, is the piece that they're performing Friday and Saturday night. It's such a gorgeous movement, with violin and piano. I can just imagine how beautiful it will be, all strings. I think the audience is really going to love it, and I would encourage everybody to take a look it up online. But it was inspired by a beautiful sculpture of a mother and child. I can't remember the sculptor's name, but it may be in the program notes. But it's a beautiful sculpture, and I just hope everybody will take a second and take a look at that. But of course, I'm looking forward to mine too. Looking forward to the Piston.
Yeah.
And the Iwaisen. I'm really excited about the Iwaisen, because I was privileged to meet Iwaisen at a convention several years ago. And that was really exciting to meet a living composer. And I've played I've accompanied a lot of his solos, and concertos and sonatas with soloists. So
did you critique his writing for a piano? Being a very good pianist himself.
It's actually, yeah. So it's pianistic. It makes sense. And I agree with Maestro Kirov. It sounds like movie music, and I think the audience is going to love it. I think they're going to love the whole program.
Yeah. And Pat, same question.
Well, I'll be specific to my Iwaisen. I mean, I've spent most of my week here listening to a lot of Iwaisen. So I'm very much looking forward to getting my ears around the Piston and the Grand Still. And I think I may have actually played a high school orchestra arrangement of the Haydn with trombones. So
wow.
That'll be interesting to hear the right way this time again.
We should have done that.
But no, the Iwaisen, like I said, I think the second movement is really the emotional center, and it actually the main thematic music is, to me, very Howard Shore, Lord of the Rings like. It's just really beautiful and haunting, and the first trombone gets a pretty good melodic part at that moment. So yeah, it'll be, as Stilian said, it's every week, whether it's a rock show or a pop show, it's always fun. It's always a challenge, and it's always great to see the people out there in the audience and make the show as good as possible for them.
Well, thank you all so much. Maestro Kirov Stilian, whose name I've butchered all night long.
That's totally fine.
You're allowed to mispronounce my name forever now.
No, don't worry.
Christi Zuniga, principal piano, and Pat Pfister, principal trombone. Thank you all so much. The concerts, there are two performances, Friday night and Saturday night, both of them at 7:30 at the Holland Performing Arts Center. Tickets are still available. If you haven't been out to hear our symphony in the age of COVID, it is so soothing to the soul. To get out. It's going to be a beautiful evening. You can stroll into the hall, and all of the precautions have been taken. I really urge you to go out and attend a concert, and this would be a spectacular one to attend. I'm Chris Allen. I'm the general manager of KVNO Classical 90.7, and I want to thank all of you who tuned in to this pre-concert live stream. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.